I really miss doing these videos. For those of you who don't know, I just finished a 53-part series of Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. It was a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but it required a lot of work, and I did kind of miss doing regular videos during that time. But hey, I'm back. We're back to regular videos now. You can expect them every 4 to 6 days as usual, and yeah, they're going to be a bit higher quality now. They won't just be 30 minutes of unedited footage of me playing Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So yeah, here we are. In this video, I'm going to be ranking every track in Mario Kart 8. This will not be counting any of the tracks in the Booster Course Pass that have been released so far. This is because not all the tracks have been released in the Booster Course Pass, and I'm mostly focusing on Mario Kart 8. Specifically, the Wii U version is what I mean, not the deluxe version. This will count the DLC from the Wii U version, but not the Booster Course Pass, so I want to make that clear. Once the Booster Course Pass is finished, I will make a separate ranking for the Booster Course Pass, and I will do a combined ranking for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as a whole, which will include the Booster Course Pass. That will probably be coming out by the end of 2023, considering that's when the Booster Course Pass is set to finish. And yeah, so for now, let's get into the video. Number 48, GCN Baby Park. Yeah, I do like this track, but it's just Baby Park. It's just an oval. I will admit, though, I do like the nice touch of all the things in the background, the ability to lap people maybe about 100 times, and I do also like how the music speeds up after every lap. It's a good track, don't get me wrong, but it's an oval. An oval. Let's move on. Number 47, GBA Mario Circuit. This one's actually pretty cool. You just drive in a Mario Circuit as you always do, but there are some oil slicks, and part of the track's being held up by an old toy Nintendo used to make and manufacture in whatever year that was, before their video game days, I believe. Forget what they're called, but it's a really nice touch, and this track got a huge makeover. It's a million times better than it was in the GBA version. Number 46, Mario Circuit. Have you ever wanted to drive in a figure 8 with absolutely no obstacles in your way? Well, this track's for you then. Look, this track's... it's so boring to me. Yeah, there are a few Goombas, but let's be real, they never get in your way. They're always off to the side. And yes, there are also a few Piranha Plants, but unless you're just completely blind and don't see them, they're not going to get in your way. Nothing will get in your way on this track except the other racers. There's nothing to worry about, and it's a little bit of a boring experience. Number 45, SNES Donut Plains 3. This track also got a huge makeover. Sure, it's still a little flat, but there is a kind of underwater section, but that's going to require you to fall off the bridge. It's cool, and don't get me wrong, the track looks beautiful, but it's still SNES Donut Plains 3 at the end of the day. Number 44, Mario Kart Stadium. Honestly, all the tracks I just mentioned could probably be interchanged. They're all fairly boring and don't have a lot to offer, but I'd argue Mario Kart Stadium is slightly better than the rest of them because it does have a gliding section, an anti-gravity section, but that's kind of it. I mean, look at the other tracks, none of them really have that. I mean, yeah, sure, Mario Circuit's in anti-gravity at all times, but that doesn't matter. There's nothing there. It's so boring. Mario Kart Stadium isn't that much better, though. Mario Kart Stadium, considering it's the first track in the game, is bound to be boring. It's not great, but it does the job and is a pretty decent first track for the game. Number 43, Excite Bike Arena. Sorry, Dad. This one's just okay. He doesn't like the track necessarily, he just likes the game Excite Bike. Moving on, this track's pretty interesting at the very least. Every time you play, all the ramps and mud slicks, or whatever you want to call them, are in different places. However, the track experience itself is usually always the same. A little bit boring, a few things to trick off of, and some mud to watch out for. It's not bad, and it is pretty fun, but it's just okay. Number 42, Ice Ice Outpost. I despise this one. It doesn't get the hate it deserves. People just seem to forget about this one, to forget how awful it is. It's literally 2 roads. just throughout the entire track that sometimes line up so you can switch between them. But there's no obstacles. There's nothing in your way. You're just driving and you sometimes switch to the other road and they just go in different directions. I don't get why Nintendo made this. It is better than the other ones though, because at least it's just more interesting and longer and has a few shortcuts. But that's it. Number 41, DS Cheap Cheap Beach. This one's very similar to how it was before. There is sort of an underwater element to it now because you can now drive underwater in Mario Kart 8 and you couldn't in Mario Kart DS. But you're usually not going to go underwater. You're usually going to stay above land. So there's not really much changed with this track. I'm not saying the underwater part isn't cool. I mean, it's expected, but it's kind of it. It's still a little boring, and all in all, it's just okay. Number 40, 3DS Neo Bowser City. This one's kinda overrated if you ask me. It looks cool, the music's cool, it's overall pretty cool, but all you're doing is driving. There's nothing else. There's nothing really that gets in your way except a couple oil slicks and maybe a few tight turns. Other than that though, there's nothing in this track. It is cool, and I wish there were more Mario Kart tracks that had a similar feel to this one, but this one's just okay at the end of the day. Number 39, Dragon Driftway. Another one where you're kind of just driving. This one does have a few areas where you can trick and all that, and there's some tight turns and all that to be had, but that's it. This track's just a little boring to me and a little forgettable. But it's still alright. I do like how most of the track is based off of Gobblegut from Mario Galaxy 2. That's a nice touch. Number 38, N64 Royal Raceway. This one's okay too. I do like the overall feel and aesthetic of the track, but again, you're just kind of driving. There is that one gliding section and all that where you have to avoid the hot air balloons, but that's it. And you can't drive to Princess Peach's castle anymore. Come on, Nintendo! Number 37, GCN Yoshi Circuit. Ever wanted to drive on an outline of Yoshi? Now's your chance. This track's pretty cool. I do like the overall makeover it got in terms of aesthetics, and all in all, it's still Yoshi Circuit. It's still an amazing track. Number 36, GCN Dry Dry Desert. I know I said I wasn't a big fan of this in my ranking every Mario Kart Double Dash track, but I do like the makeover this track got. Aesthetically, it looks a bit more appealing at least. You can trick off of some of the stuff that falls, like the statues or whatever. And there's an oasis now. The only thing I do miss is when that piranha plant would eat you if you went down the sinkhole. But other than that though, this track's still really good. Number 35, Wee Moo Moo Meadows. This track looks beautiful now. In the Wii version it looks so ugly and blocky, and this track, it's beautiful. This track looks amazing. Okay, enough about how it looks. How does it play? It plays virtually the same way the Wii one did. There's now a small gliding section and the cows are still there. But all in all, it's still Wee Moo Moo Meadows. It's nothing too special. Number 34, SNES Rainbow Road. As you've probably noticed in my Mario Kart 7 video, I'm not the biggest fan of this one. I personally think SNES Rainbow Road's just okay. I mean, it's just driving with a few thwomps getting in your way. I mean, yes, aesthetically this track has had a huge improvement with all the mushrooms in the background looking sort of rainbow. But other than that, it's just like, it's the same thing. It's no different. And I don't get why they brought this track back in the DLC. Especially when it's just okay and it's already remade in Mario Kart 7. Anyways, moving on. Number 33, Water Park. Wait, we're only getting to another track in the Mushroom Cup now? That's a first. Anyways, Water Park's alright. It's obviously based around underwater sections that go pretty well. You can get some speed boosts from that thing. I don't know what it is when you're in anti-gravity mode. And for one of the first tracks in the game, it's pretty okay. It's not great, but again, it's okay. Number 32, Sweet Sweet Kingdom. Yes, I do want to eat this place. Also, doesn't it remind you of the place from Wreck-It Ralph? I know Bandy pointed that out once, and that's all I can think about now. Anyways, this track, aside from looking delicious, is alright. You know, it's nothing too special. Again, it is from the Mushroom Cup, but it does offer a pretty decent experience. Number 31, Electrodrome. Never been a big fan of this one. Personally, I think it's very overrated. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why this track is rated so well. Most people think the aesthetic and the overall feel of the track is cool, and I 100% agree. But when it comes to the actual gameplay of the track, I think it's a little boring. There really isn't much. It's kind of just driving and not really having many obstacles that get in your way. It's okay, don't get me wrong, I enjoy this track. It's just okay though. At the end of the day, it's just driving, even though that's what Mario Kart's all about. But there's no obstacles whatsoever that get in your way. Number 30, N64 Yoshi Valley. When I did ranking every Mario Kart 64 track, I rated this one a little unfairly, and that was because the tracks in that game were hard to compare. Personally, looking back, I kind of regret doing that because this track has a lot to offer and is really fun. Honestly, you could spend hours trying to find which way is the fastest, or you could just look it up on YouTube. I just take a random direction every time and hope for the best. But this track's a lot of fun, honestly. It's really good, and it just allows for a lot of good, dumb fun among you and your friends. Or just you, if you're lonely like me. Number 29, GBA Cheeseland. They went all out on the GBA remakes. This one's amazing. This kind of looks a bit more like cheese than it did in the GBA one, but it still looks like desert. Anyways, the track is no longer flat. It's actually, like, got elevation and stuff, and there's even an anti-gravity section, sort of. There's also a chain chomp now, which I don't think was in the GBA one because I've never played the GBA one, but I'm assuming it wasn't, and the chain chomp is cool. This track's pretty good. It's alright. Not great, but it's not bad. Number 28, Thwomp Ruins. This has always been the most appealing track in the Mushroom Cup. You drive around some ruins, obviously with a lot of thwomps there, and there is that one section where there's water, but you could go left or right because sometimes the middle where you glide over the water is being blocked by some, what would you call those, walls, I guess? Whatever you want to call them. There are also some gears in the tunnel section, there are a few shortcuts you can take, and there's that one gliding section at the end that's really cool. I like this track. It's always been just okay, but enough to keep me interested. Number 27, N64 Toad's Turnpike. This one's okay. All it is just a bunch of cars driving and you gotta avoid them, but it makes for a pretty decent experience. Plus, now you can drive on the walls with the anti-gravity in this game, so that's pretty cool. Number 26, N64 Rainbow Road. Yeah, another Rainbow Road that is being ranked super well. In fairness, it is very hard to make N64 Rainbow Road interesting in a remake, and they did an amazing job considering how boring the original track was. They added some speed boost, the chain chomps are now a bigger part of the track as they make the track go wavy or whatever you want to call it, and all in all, it's just a lot better. Now yes, I'm going to say what everyone always says about the track, it should have been 2 laps. Now I get Nintendo wanting to make the track shorter. In the original game, it took 6 minutes on 50cc, but in this game it takes like 1 minute and 30 seconds on 50cc. So they should have found a bit more of a balance, but all in all, I don't mind it being this short. It's just, it doesn't take long at all, and it's just a bit short. I kind of think I would almost rather it be 3 laps again, just because a big part of the track and what made it so iconic was how long it was. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. But the track, all in all, it looks really good, it plays really good, and the music is fantastic. I don't care what anyone says, the remix of N64 Rainbow Road and Mario Kart 8 is way better than the original, okay? Yeah, come at me. Fight me for all I care. Number 25, Rainbow Road. This one is nothing special. I actually was debating whether I should put N64 Rainbow Road over this one or not, but I decided regular Rainbow Road is slightly better, but the two could be interchanged. Mario Kart 8's Rainbow Road is definitely not the best experience, especially following Mario Kart 7's Rainbow Road, which I can't wait to be added, by the way. So regular Rainbow Road basically kind of works with the idea of a space station, and that's cool, but it doesn't work. The only part of this track that's even remotely interesting is that one part where the road is going forward or backwards at that one part, and you can either speed up or slow down depending on which one you're going on. Look, if you played the track, you know what I mean. Other than that, there's really just a couple of tight turns you can do, and that's kind of the entire track. It's a very boring Rainbow Road compared to others. Now, I do believe it's a bit underrated, but at the end of the day, it's not the best. Number 24, Super Bell Subway. This one's alright. I actually kind of get a lot of Toad's Turnpike vibes from this one, except instead of cars, it's trains, or subways, whatever you want to call it. This one's okay, but I wish it was expanded on a bit more. It's very forgettable and is kind of a very quick track. I do like how you can kind of drive on top of the subways, and there's a lot of room for you to avoid them. Plus, I also like how you drive above the subway area, whatever you want to call it, in the kind of lobby area. I don't know what it'd be called. Area a bit, which also kind of reminds me of Sunshine Airport. So it's a pretty good track, just I wish it was expanded on a bit more. It would have been so much cooler if it was just a bit better or something like that. I don't know. Number 23, Dolphin Shoals. This one's alright. I'm not a huge fan of the underwater tracks in this game, but this one has a very good mixture of above water and underwater. Plus, Unagi is in this. No, I'm not talking about Unagi from Friends, I'm talking about Unagi from Mario 64. So, basically with this track, the idea is you're kind of switching between underwater and above water on a few separate occasions. You start off underwater most of the time, and there are parts where you can trick into above water for a few seconds and all that. And then there's that one cave with a bunch of pipes you can trick off of the air coming out of them, and Unagi who you can trick off of a billion times, which is really fun and satisfying if you do it right. But then when you go to the above water section, the music blasts you. It goes from an underwater kind of soothing thing to a jazz explosion. I couldn't think of how else to describe it. You basically just kind of drive a little bit on some rocks. There's this really cool whirlpool, and you can glide back and repeat the track. It's a really fun and creative track, and I love this one. Number 22, GCN Sherbetland. I love this track. Not the original. The original sucks. The remake, I like it. The ice physics are no longer atrocious, and you can now actually drive properly. The big icicles that used to freeze you also aren't that big a deal anymore, and honestly, the track is kind of fun now. Now granted, it's not the best, but it makes for a nice relaxing experience just driving through this winter area. It's fun, don't get me wrong, it's fun. Is it the best? No, of course not, but it's really good. Number 21, Toad Harbor. When I did my Mario Kart 8 Deluxe playthrough, I had trouble figuring out which city Toad Harbor was based on. And I finally figured it out. It was San Francisco. That's what I wanted to say, but I was worried it'd be wrong. Anyways, Toad Harbor is a really cool track based off of San Francisco. There are a lot of boats and trains, and it's really cool. It's a really fun experience, and it's one that isn't often talked about with Mario Kart 8. There's a kind of shop, I want to say, at the beginning where you can go on top of things. Whatever, you know what I mean if you played it. There's parts where you can go off the walls and trick. There's parts where you're just going down on a slope, which is fun. And then you just repeat the track. It's really fun. I'm bad at explaining it, but if you've played it, you know exactly what I mean, and it's a really fun and underrated track. Number 20, Bone Dry Dunes. When I rank a desert track this well, you know it's alright. Now, this one isn't great, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the desert tracks. But all in all, I do kind of like how that one section you can take two different paths. The anti-gravity one and the regular one. I don't think I've ever taken the regular one, to be honest. I always go with the anti-gravity one. And then there's that cool dry Bowser mouth thing that you fly into. And then there's the bone piranha plants. I don't think they have an actual name. No, they're cool. And I do like the sailboats in the sand. It's unrealistic, of course, but it's really cool and it's a nice touch. Plus, they throw coins at you, so that's fun. And then there are obviously some dry bones inside the cave. So yeah, I always thought it'd be weird playing that track as dry bones and having dry bones being an obstacle, but hey, doesn't matter, it's fun. Number 19, DS Wario Stadium. Holy crap, did they ever revamp this one. One of the sections is entirely flipped on its side now, and there are fire bars you gotta look out for. That makes for an awesome anti-gravity section for the track. And to add even more to it, there's an underwater section. That's awesome. Look, my biggest problem with it in Mario Kart DS was that there was no variety. It was a lot of just dirt and a bit of fire that you had to look out for in that game, and every area looked the same. But now, there's so much more. And there's a Wario statue! That's cool! This track is just so much more appealing and so much more fun, and it still feels like Wario Stadium, which is the best part. Plus, it's got that sweet, sweet Waluigi Pinball remix. Look, I know I could say Wario Stadium remix, but it'll always be Waluigi Pinball in my heart. Number 18, Shy Guy Falls. I personally think this track's very underrated. I mean, yeah, it's not the best, but I mean, there's some really cool ideas implemented here. Like, for example, you can go against the waterfall and with it, which obviously going against it would make you slower, going with it would make you faster, but there are also speed boosts that you don't go too slow when you're going against it. And also, this track does look really nice. Like, I personally think this is one of the most beautiful looking tracks in the game. Well, there are obviously better looking ones than this, but it's one of them for sure. Plus, I also like how you can hear the Shy Guys going as you're driving past them. That might not have been the best imitation, but I think you get the point. Number 17, Wii Wario's Goldmine. This track had a huge improvement. You might be wondering, well, what could that be? Well, I'll tell you what that is. You can now use the minecarts as speed boosts. You might think, well, why don't they hurt you like they did in Mario Kart Wii? This is too easy now. While in Mario Kart Wii, it could actually be very annoying at times how very carefully you had to drive to avoid the minecarts. Now you don't have to worry. Now you're driving towards the minecarts and they're actually used to your advantage. That small change made this track a million times better if you ask me. Plus, everything else is the same. I mean, this is a masterpiece. You don't want to change it. I mean, it's not one of the best tracks ever, but it's up there for sure. It's a really good track in my opinion, so yeah. Alright, let's move on. Number 16, 3DS Piranha Plant Slide. I really enjoy this one. I think it's kind of an underrated track. It's a very nice throwback to the underground days of the original Mario Bros. Game. You basically start off by driving into the underground section. There's water there, and it makes you go faster. There's also a piranha plant for you to avoid. There's also some Goombas in your way that you gotta watch out for, and some blocks you can drive on top of that are floating in the air. They're obviously supposed to be references to the question mark blocks in the original Mario Bros. Game. And then there's that big underwater section where there's all those speed boosts and pipes and all that, and there's that big piranha plant you got to avoid right before you fly so high up into the sky, and I did not mean to rhyme there, and then you land, and then you repeat the track. I think it's really good, and I think it's kind of underrated. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a really good track. Number 15, Wild Woods. I'd actually argue this may be the most forgettable track in all of Mario Kart history. That may not be true, but it's very forgettable, especially considering how good it is. It's kind of obvious to tell this is a little inspired by Maple Treeway, and that's fine by me. This track's really good. There isn't as many tight turns as Maple Treeway, but there are some really cool elements that make it really enjoyable. I just wish it got the attention it deserved. It's a really good track, and yeah, it's just good. There's a lot of wood and trees sections, obviously. I mean, it is called Wild Woods, whilst having some water sections mixed in as well. So it's a very good track. Don't get me wrong. I wish it was talked about more. I feel like most people forget its existence, as I do often. Number 14, Animal Crossing Circuit. Look, I really wish I could rank this better, but this was the best I could do, all you Animal Crossing fans out there. Animal Crossing Circuit's really fun. I do like how it can change what time of year it is, depending on nothing. It's just random, I think. But it is fun. It is. And I just really enjoy this track. There's a lot of fun Animal Crossing elements thrown in, and it just makes for an awesome experience. Number 13, Sunshine Airport. I mentioned this one earlier, and it's really fun. Who knew driving through an airport could actually be made into a fun experience? So basically, you obviously drive through an airport. There are a lot of planes and stuff you can drive on top of, or just under, or whatever. It depends on what part of the track you're on. There's some boxes and conveyor belts you gotta avoid. And then there's that one really cool section where you drive from that in the sky area, if that makes any sense, back down to the airport where the plane would normally land and repeat the track. This is one of the most iconic Mario Kart 8 tracks in my opinion, and it's really good. Number 12, Twisted Mansion. This one is a really good haunted track. It's not necessarily made clear to be based off of Luigi's Mansion, but pretty much all haunted tracks are, to be honest. Basically, you just drive through a mansion. There are many different and interesting obstacles that will await you inside, like some walls that you gotta drive on top of that are moving, and some water sections, and some more anti-gravity sections, and some knights that are possessed, that are striking the ground with their hammers or axes, I forget what it was. And yeah, it just makes for a very interesting haunted track, and one that most Mario Karts haven't been able to replicate. It's very fun. I really like this. Number 11, Mute City. Again, I did my best with this one, but this was as far as I could bring it. Look, Mute City is so much fun, but I personally think this one in particular is a bit overrated. There aren't very many obstacles, and it's really just a bunch of speed boosts. Now, believe me, I love it. The music's great, the feel's great, everything's great, and it's really cool to have an F-Zero track in this game. But all in all, it's just Mute City. It's really good. Okay, at the end of the day, it's still in the top 11. I mean, that's pretty good, right? Out of 48? That's good in my books. Look, I really like this one. Okay? It's really good. And I'm not trying to attack it in any way, but personally, I think it's only worthy of being put at number 11. Number 10, 3DS Music Park. I do think this track is a little overrated. Do I hate it? No, it's at number 10, okay? But I don't love it as much as most people do. Now, I do like how you can drive over pianos, there are musical notes and all that. I mean, I have explained this track 2 or 3 times at this point and why I think it's overrated and stuff. But it's alright. It's good. The music's good, the track is good, the feel is good, the head bopping piranha plants are good. It's a really good track, and I do get why most people like it. It's just personally, I don't love it as much. But it's still at number 10, so I still love it. Just not as much. I have to say that for a 3rd time. I don't know why. Okay, let's move on. Number 9, GBA Ribbon Road. This is hands down probably the best remake we've ever seen in Mario Kart history. They turned a very mediocre Game Boy track into one of the best tracks in the game. Now personally, I really like Ribbon Road because it's just a really fun track. They turned a flat track into a fairly elevated track, and there's a lot being thrown at you. Like, there are a couple Mecha Koopas in your way, there's some cool gliding sections, and overall, just this track really looks and feels appealing. You don't have a dull experience driving on this track, and that's what I love most about it. Number 8, Cloud Top Cruise. I do kind of have a soft spot for this track. I don't know what it is about it, but I just really like this one for some reason. You start off by driving just on some, I would say clouds, but I don't think it's actually clouds. It's more like vines, I guess? Because, I don't know, you're driving on something, we'll put it that way, and there are clouds around you. You then drive on one of Bowser's airships, which is really cool, and then you drive into this big storm. The music gets more intense, and you just gotta make sure you're not getting electrocuted. It's really fun. I love this track. And the best part, well, not the best part, but one of the things I love most about it, is part of the song is a remix of Gusty Garden Galaxy. That's a really nice touch, and I love it. Number 7, Hyrule Circuit. One of the best tracks in the game that is based off of another Nintendo IP. Personally, I've not played much of Legend of Zelda, but you don't need to enjoy this track. There's so much to love about it, whether it's the music, the look, the aesthetic, or just the overall gameplay of it. This is a really fun track, and I really like it. Number 6, Bowser's Castle. If you ask me, this is the best Bowser Castle track in Mario Kart history. Well, the Wii one comes close, but this one might be just teensy little bit better. Basically, you just drive through Bowser's Castle. There's some traditional Bowser Castle obstacles, like some balls with spikes on them. That sounds so wrong, I'm sorry. Fire bars, lava, all that stuff. But there's a big giant Bowser that's punching the road, and the road is going wavy. I don't know how to describe it, but you obviously know what I'm talking about if you've played the track. It's impossible not to know what I'm talking about if you have played the track. And there is this one section outside the castle which is really cool that I like because there are boulders falling and you got to avoid them. Honestly, this Bowser's Castle just had a lot of really good ideas, and I really enjoy it. Number 5, Wii Grumble Volcano. One of my favorites from Mario Kart Wii. This one is really good. I personally prefer the remake to the Mario Kart Wii version because in Mario Kart 8 you can control where you're going a lot better. You don't always have to worry about accidentally catching on fire because the controls aren't as good. Now that is a gameplay thing and a difference between the two games and how they play as opposed to the track and how it was made, but personally I find this track just to be more enjoyable in Mario Kart 8. Basically all you're worrying about is the track falls apart, which is really cool, and there's a lot of fire if you haven't gotten that already. Anyways, let's move on. Number 4, 3DS DK Jungle. I really like this one. The DK tracks are always really good in Mario Kart, but this one takes it to a whole new level. Everything is based off of Donkey Kong Country, which is awesome. There's so many amazing references. Honestly, this track is just really cool, and I'm so glad it was brought back from Mario Kart 8. Number 3, Big Blue. Sorry everyone, but this isn't number 1. Big Blue, though, takes Mute City and injects it with probably, I'd say, a billion steroids. It's everything Mute City was, but better. There are more speed boosts, there's water, it's one of those tracks where it's like point A to point B, and there are different sections. Everything is cool. This track is constantly throwing something at you, and it's awesome. Hands down, a really great reference to F-Zero, and hands down, one of the best tracks ever made in Mario Kart history. Number 2, Mount Wario. I personally think this one is better than Big Blue because it has a very similar feel, but I find this one throws even more obstacles at you. Now yes, we can agree to disagree on that if you're a Big Blue fan. Your opinion's your opinion, my opinion's my opinion. But personally, I think Mount Wario is just a way better track. As one of the 3 Wario tracks, I personally think this one is the best because this game has 3 Wario tracks. Yes, I've said that a million times. That's just something I still can't believe to this day. Anyways, Mount Wario is really good. There's a lot of stuff, and I've explained this track at least once before. You basically start off on the top of a mountain, and you're driving down, and it's just really cool. There's a lot of obstacles thrown at you, such as trees, water, and gliding sections. It's one of the best tracks ever made in Mario Kart history, and I love it. Number 1, DS Tick-Tock Clock. A lot of you are probably not going to like them putting a retro track at number 1, and that's completely understandable. I would actually say that this one and Mount Wario could be interchanged. Now some of you that may or may not have seen my top 10 best Mario Kart tracks video will know that I put Mount Wario at number 8 and this at number 2. So you might be wondering, well, have your opinions changed since then? My answer to that is actually no. I still think of these tracks as being the 8th best and the 2nd best. But you might be wondering, how would I be saying they're interchanged? Or could be interchanged. And that's because DS Tick-Tock Clock is not nearly as enjoyable in Mario Kart 8 as it was Mario Kart DS for me. Personally, I don't like how much they added to it. I think the way it was before was plain and simple, and that's what it was going for. Like, the gliding section takes out that entire part where the gears are turning, and it's just a bit unnecessary. I also don't like how much the graphics have improved. because in the original, the graphics were more accurate to the Mario 64 version, which is what the track was trying to replicate. But in this, it looks entirely brand new. And yes, the graphics objectively look better, but I still wish they were more accurate to the Mario 64 version. But stuff like that aside, this is still the best track in the game, if you ask me. And I love it. It's so much fun, and it's hands down one of the best. So there you go. Those are all 48 tracks in Mario Kart 8 ranked. I really like this game, and while the Wii U version wasn't nearly as good as the Switch one, the Wii U one definitely doesn't get the attention it deserves, especially considering how awesome these tracks are. I mean, I do get why the deluxe version gets all the attention, considering now the Booster Course Pass is a thing and it actually has a battle mode, but still. Anyways, that's all for today. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.